Okay, good afternoon and welcome back to AirVenture 2021. And as we traditionally do at Monday afternoon, we welcome EAA CEO and Chairman of the Board, Jack Pelton, to give a little update of how we got to this point so far before AirVenture and other topics, and then we'll take your questions after his remarks. So Jack, it's all yours.
Thanks, Dick. Well, as we've been saying leading up to this, the wait is finally over. And then we're finally back after 24 months of a very interesting roller coaster ride that got us to this day. I'm not going to go in depth about the 24 months prior, but just kind of highlight a little bit about the fact that, as not that long ago, December of 2020, we were still very unsure whether this event could even happen because of the situation that was going on with the pandemic and a lot of the protocols that were necessary. We managed to work very closely with the local health authorities within the state, the county, and the city, and we kept them up to date every week as to, based on where we were in January, beginning of February, and what type of protocols we'd put in place to make sure this would go. We started with this was going to be a fly-in with nobody else here as far as exhibitors or anything else, and we were going to have it. And then we got to finally where we got to a point where the changes we made resonated well enough to where we got all the people. A lot of people don't realize we have licensing and permitting that has to occur in order for this to happen. So it's not our own call. Changes we made, I think, at the end of the day, really don't impact the experience for anybody that's been coming here for all of these years. Sure, we canceled the concert, but I don't think everybody comes to Oshkosh for a concert. We did spread out some of the exhibitors in the hangars, provided more aisle space and room, space between the booths. We focused on areas where people have high levels of congestion, because we recognize being outside and spread out is as safe as you can possibly have in this environment. So we looked at the first area was the entrance, and the fact that a lot of you, if you go through the front gate in the early morning, there'll be lines and lines lined up at the ticket booths. And with the help of Airbus, we created what we call the Express Arrival process. So people could book tickets in advance, get them mailed to their homes, and be able to get from their car directly in without having to go through the long lines in the front. And we also did the same in the campgrounds. We had Express Arrival in the camping areas that allowed people to already be pre-credentialed and be able to go right through. And that helped relax and kind of tamper down the overall congesting area. We did, I hope you have seen around the grounds, we did contract with a firm called King, who is probably one of the nation's largest sanitization and disinfecting companies. They are here on site in mass, sanitizing and disinfecting our food areas, our exhibits, our forum areas, our workshops, restroom facilities. They're running around in kind of pairs of two and T-shirts and doing a really amazing job of keeping everything tidy and clean and to a little higher standard than we'd even normally have during AirVenture. So that was the protocols and things that we put in place. Unfortunately, things have laxed up enough to be able to continue to have the event. For the months leading into the event, as far as EAA is concerned as an organization, we got a little bruised, no doubt about that. We had the normal issues that come when you lose a major source of your revenue for any given year. So there was layoffs, there were furloughs, there was long periods of times of working at home under a state mandate of the stay-at-home orders. But what the organization did, which I'm so proud of, is they were able to facilitate the majority of the employees within 1 week. We were able to get all of the IT and infrastructure that they needed to continue to stay connected with the members and continue to do the jobs they do year-round, which is publishing magazines, doing webinars, providing support to the chapters, and we didn't miss a single beat on any of that. Not one date, not one publication, and we doubled down on our approach to how we interface with our members through our educational activities like the webinars, which, it's been a learning that will stick with us and will become institutionalized as we go forward. The numbers of people that participate in our webinars and the quantity of webinars prove that we do have valuable content that people want to participate in, and that's been a kind of a refreshing shift. And I should highlight also things like the express entry and all that. We're going to institutionalize those efficiencies that we learned as a result of this pandemic. So, even in the darkest times, sometimes you do come out with some bright lights that shined on things that we hadn't thought about in the past. Financially, I think I had mentioned many times before, we worked to a very strict rolling 5-year strategic plan. And in that plan, we had accounted for what happens if you don't have an AirVenture. And we thought of, could it be a terrorist crisis? Could it be weather? Nobody knew the word pandemic at the time. And fortunately, because of that, we had the reserves and the strength to be able to control and cut our costs and make the decisions that we made for 2020 soon enough that we came out of this very, very resilient. The future is secured. There's actually no risk or support of our future. And based on this AirVenture, we will be right back into replenishing those reserves on Monday, August 2nd, because it looks like it's going to be another banner year. Looking at our membership, we have a membership cycle that quite often the renewals for annual memberships occur during AirVenture because you get the discount on your ticket to come in. So we did take a dip in membership last July and August timeframe, and as of July of this year, we have completely regained the membership, which is now over 240,000 members strong. So that's recovered quite handsomely, and we think that probably through the remainder of the next couple of months that we'll probably continue to build on that, and it could end up being a record year for total membership. We hope also, selfishly, that it's validating that we are providing the value that customers or our members are looking for, and that we are relative in the aviation industry, and people want to continue to be a part of us, which is very encouraging. We did some things that were meant for 2020 that we implemented this year, which was our new NOTAM. We looked in after 2019, which was a weather event at the beginning of the year. We changed the NOTAM around to be able to provide more waypoints, since everybody has that capability in their cockpits or their iPads now, to be able to help spread traffic out over a longer spacing to get in, as opposed to getting all the way to Fisk and then having to go out and hold somewhere. And we also made sure we put into place procedures that are well-defined relative to holding. One of the things I asked the team after 2019, when you heard all the chatter on ATC around holding and kind of the chaos that was going on, I said, sometimes we forget that a private pilot, never in their training to get that certificate and staying at that level, is ever taught how to hold. I mean, that's an IFR procedure, and we're asking people to go out in their J3 Cubs and hold. So we worked on that, and that, so far, at least the feedback I've gotten, I know I've had just in passing members make comments about this is the first time in 5 years they haven't had to depart the Arrival and go regroup. It's been able to stay in it and stay visible. ADS-B out has certainly helped a lot, because the air traffic controllers have actually, I had an example the other day. I was listening to the radio. Somebody cut in at Fisk, and the controller called them out by the air number and said, turn left immediately, get back to the waypoint that you're supposed to. You're cutting people off, which caused the people behind them in the line to be very thankful, and those people to understand that the eyes of ADS-B were on them, and actually turned out to be very, very helpful. We changed some of the ingress in the parking for automobiles to try to make that process and procedure more expeditious. Part of that was to try to get away from taking money at the gates by doing advanced purchase on parking, so you could come right into the parking lots, or have it be a cash-only exact change transaction. Those things, I think, based on today's first day, have not panned out to be proved out to be perfect yet. We have some kinks in it that we know what they are, and we'll get those resolved later in the week. Most of it was around signage, making sure people understood which lane they needed to be in, and we'll get that cleaned up. The exhibitors all came back in force. We certainly have well over 800 plus exhibitors, which is usually around what we typically are at. Camping so far is equal to 2019 levels, which was our record year. Aircraft arrivals, this is the one this morning that it proved out as I was driving late in the evening yesterday from one end to the other, giving somebody a tour and looking at all the airplanes on the ground. Last year, Sunday, when the airport closed, we had 3,500 aircraft had arrived, and I think our highest number of any AirVenture prior to that, because we did have some rain events last AirVenture, was around 5,000. At 8 o'clock last night, we were at 7,928 airplanes had arrived and been on the ground, and that was before today's official opening. So the numbers have panned out to be really significant, which is great. We have some significant themes this week during AirVenture. This morning we announced a new program called Aero Educate. We announced that on the plaza with the supporters of that program, who were United, Siemens, and Airbus. And Aero Educate answers the age-old question for us internally as to, you've got this fabulous program called the Young Eagles, where we've flown well over 2.2 million kids. But other than the experience of the flight, how do we stay engaged with them? And how do you keep them interested in aviation? And what are we doing to foster that? Aero Educate is a program that we've spent 2.5 years on developing with a couple of universities and the industry partners that we talked about. And it's going to be online, and it takes the young eagle and reaches out to them as soon as they're completed to get access to a free online resource that is career pathing and tracking, along with all of the necessary educational steps, so that teachers, parents, and the actual young eagle can mold this together. So it'll provide to the teachers hands-on projects that they can use in the classroom. It provides for the parents an understanding of the variety of careers that are out there, along with geographic ability to tell a young person in their region where can they go to the next aviation event, where can they go to an aviation museum, where can they find an AOPA course that might be going on. Anything that has to do with aviation, we want them to be able to have visibility and access to it. But the programming in it is a badging system. And so it is a learning system that as you complete some of the things you do, like maybe go to a museum, or maybe you take some of our online educational courses, that you earn badges like you would in the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, as an effort to keep them motivated and keep them wanting to aspire to get to the next level, and hopefully hold them in aviation up to that point in time where they can actually go out and start doing flight training. And then, of course, from that point on, we can involve them at the chapters and get them into our Race Scholar program to help fund that flight training education. So we're really excited about it. It's being beta tested live starting today. And we think it really is going to help be that first next hook into the kids as they go through their development process up to high school. Women Venture will be again on Wednesday. Our Girl Venture camp started Sunday. During the week, we have not abandoned our Twilight Flight Fest down at the ultralight area. So on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, we will be having STOL flying, radio-controlled night flying, some hot air balloons, and other very interesting things to do. Wednesday and Saturday, we'll keep up with our night air shows and our spectacular firework exhibits that people have enjoyed for numerous years. We've maintained all of our workshops and all of our forums. Seats are spaced out a little bit more, but for all practical purposes, everything you've known to come and want to participate in is going to participate. Theater in the Woods schedule for the week. Evening of Champions was last night. Space Day today, Founders Innovation Prize tomorrow. Women Venture Wednesday. Anniversary of Desert Storm on Thursday. Friday's end of World War II plus 1 year, and on Saturday, the Air Force Special Operations Team will be there. We've also themed the displays on the plaza. I think today you're seeing a lot of our aviation support of humanitarian efforts. We've got the UPS 747 that delivered vaccines around the world. Samaritan's Purse, which is a DC-8 re-engined that does a lot of around the globe's humanitarian work. The C-17 that's there is a full hospital. So it's the C-17 they deploy, whether it be for tornadoes, floods, hurricanes, disaster relief, and they pull out and have on site a full hospital, and then the Orbis Flying Air Hospital. The aircraft anniversaries are numerous. I mean, the number of them that we have going on, I won't tie up all your time going through every vintage and home-built aircraft that's got a time to be celebrated. The last two things that I do want to tie your time up with is during the last 2 years, a lot of people I think would hunker down. They would probably retreat some, and they would probably just lay low to try to figure out what's going to happen when we come out the other end of this. We doubled down, and we were able to actually in May of this year put a shovel in the ground for what our project we call Project 21, which is a 30,000 square foot addition to our museum. We've raised all the funds during this shutdown period. It was all funded completely through donors, not through EA's operational funds. It is a purpose-built building that takes the two ingredients that we have during AirVenture and makes them two significant venues that we have and makes them year-round, have year-round capability. KidVenture, if you don't know about KidVenture, it's over at Pioneer Airport, and during AirVenture, we get about 5,000 or 6,000 kids that go through. And it's hands-on learning, station by station, of aviation activities, whether it be building a rib, learning about aircraft electrical wiring, whether it's learning about weather, and they go through a process where they get a card where they complete all of the various and get a toolbox at the end of that. The second floor of this new building is going to be a year-round STEM lab that will have KidVenture kinds of projects in very, I call them, they're not mobile labs, but they're very flexible that you can configure them any day for whatever class you have coming in for whatever topics you want to have. And it's a beautiful state-of-the-art facility that really is in honor and being dedicated around Dan Micah and his creation of KidVenture that has gone on so successfully. The first floor is all about EA's commitment to safety and flying proficiency. So it's going to be our flight proficiency center we have on the four corners. It will have 13 simulators that will be in there for use year-round, in which we're going to be inviting in type clubs. The FAA is going to be doing training in there. We're going to have CFI recurrent training, and we're going to have just ongoing programming throughout each month throughout the year in this facility that's going to be permanent and world-class in a building that certainly also is world-class. And it wouldn't be appropriate to go into AirVenture with thinking that everything's good, we got no reauthorization bill, we don't have privatization of towers. Our advocacy group, who works so hard, I said, boy, you guys have got it made this year. There's not a lot going on. And then a week ago, the FAA decided to pop up with a little problem regarding flight training and experimental home-built airplanes, primary category airplanes, and limited category airplanes, as a result of a court ruling that had been in work for the last couple of years around an individual in a warbird who was giving flight training in a limited category airplane without the proper exemptions. As a result of the court ruling, the FAA legal decided to reinterpret after 60 years what the definition was for compensation for flight training, and they got it absolutely wrong. And they requiring us to get a LOTA if you want to go out in your experimental home built and do any kind of flight training. Not both. One, or either the CFI has to have the LOTA or the owner of the airplane. And they thought they did us a favor by saying, well, yeah, we changed it, but we got a system that allows you to get one pretty seamlessly by just going online and submitting paperwork, and it's a direct 2 to 3 day, they send you one back, no interviews, no visiting the FSDO. But that wasn't the point. The point was this has a lot of potential unintended consequences that could go in a variety of areas, including standard category airplanes, including redefining the CFI's medical requirements and a lot of other things when you deal with the definition of for hire. And so while we've got this temporary relief, all of the associations band together, and we now have a Senate bill and a House bill that dropped on the floor end of last week that will get this thing right-sided forever and for good. And it's being sponsored by Jim Inhofe on the Senate side and being sponsored by Sam Graves and Pete DeFazio, so both parties on the House side. And we're going to go after that really hard. We'll be probably, after AirVenture's over, putting together how we're going to engage our members to help us support getting those things through. They probably won't be, at the end of the day, they probably won't be a standalone bill. They'll get tacked onto another bill. But we're right now feeling we've got great support in Congress to make sure this happens and we get everything back on track. It was really unfortunate because the number of chapters that I've talked to and met over the last week have had a lot of people gridlocked, unsure of what does this mean? What are they actually requiring me to do? Does this mean if I fly to AirVenture with my flight instructor in the airplane, do I have to get a LOTA? Well, technically they're not giving you instruction on the way, so you don't, but when you read something like this, you would think I better, because what if I end up getting checked somehow. The FAA has also not been I don't think, very supportive in saying that there would not be actions taken against people. And that's probably the biggest beef I had in a conversation I had with the administrator on Friday was, why won't you put out in definitive writing that until you get rulemaking change that you will not take enforcement actions against people? And they have yet to say that they will not. And so because of that, we all in the community have to be very concerned about what their real intent is. The FAA administrator will be here Thursday, so I think I just gave a warm-up for his arrival. It's not going to be a very welcoming arrival, and he will be in one of our Meet the Administrator forums, of which I know my first question will be for him to go ahead and explain this, and we'll see where that lands. So it's been a interesting time, but more importantly, I want to hear what questions you all have.
Okay, any questions? We'll start over here with Paul.
Jack, would you go over those numbers again on aircraft? I'm not sure I really understood them.
So on 2019, our record AirVenture year, on Sunday at 8 o'clock when the airport closed, we had 3,500 airplanes that had arrived by Thursday through Sunday. This year, at that same time, same airport closure, we had 7,928.
You said over double.
Yep.
And what was you had a 5,000 number?
That's a more typical weekend. You got to remember, 2019 we had a lot of rain over the early weekend, and that kept a lot of people back. So typically it's more around the 5,000 number, but we're still 3,000 above that.
Wow. Okay. Izzy back here.
Hey, Jack. When the judge's ruling came down, my assumption was that the FAA was going to say, no, they got this wrong. We've been doing it this way. It works great. But I was really surprised, I think, as were a lot of people, that they came down in so strongly alongside the judge's ruling on that. And it made me wonder why they did that and why they're being so hard-nosed about it. Have you got any insights about that?
Yeah, it's the FAA's chief counsel. I mean, that was the chief counsel's decision to support the court ruling and not challenge it based on, there are other rulings, one that occurred in Florida in 1985 that is exactly the counter to what they did. And that should have been a precedent, that ruling is out there. And they ignored that ruling and decided to put in place their own reinterpretation. And so the counsel, Mark Baker and I met with him on a Zoom call on Thursday, and we listened to him go on and on and on about his particular position on that. I personally said I'm very embarrassed and insulted because your father was an EAA board member for many, many years, which is not a great place to be if you're the chief counsel of the FAA and not understanding general aviation. But shame doesn't go very far in trying to get him to reverse it. He's sticking by it. I mean, he's entrenched. So the only way we're going to get it reversed is do it through legislation. You hate to do that, but...
Okay, Jonathan back here.
At the top, you mentioned you were going to go with a scaled-back form of AirVenture as early as this spring. Can you give us some idea of what it would have looked like out here? Would it have been old-school, members only?
That was one option. A lot of when you go through the whole risk management assessment of what can you and can't you do, you're working first with the rule book, which is the rules that are being set up by the local community on what they're allowing and not allowing. And it pretty much back in the early spring looked at it was outdoor only type of events, which would eliminate any indoor exhibitors and everything being spread out. So it would look basically like just a fly-in. And then the question was, are they going to put a limit on how many people that would be there for the fly-in? And that was tough to get them to commit as to what that would look like or be. As we continue to work through that, though, that things started getting better and better, and to the point of, gosh, probably 7 weeks ago when I was meeting with the head of the health department, asking them point-blank questions. They were putting restrictions on us as to how we serve food and how we do that. I said, okay, just tell me, has anybody caught COVID from a hamburger? And I just want to know if, do we have to, because they wanted us to put hamburgers in sealed boxes to hand to people. And they finally said, no, nobody really has. I said, we're not doing sealed boxes. And has anybody got COVID from an ice cream cone that doesn't have a wrapper around it? And they said, I said, you're putting that as restriction. I said, we're not doing that. And they finally came around to, even to the point on surface contact, they admitted that no longer was, it's an airborne risk, and that was the concern. So it was a long, grueling to get to where we are today. And it was just changing slowly, but constantly.
Okay, we've got Dan over here.
Thanks, Jack. You mentioned that you're double of what last year's numbers on the arrivals. What do you attribute to that? And especially when you look at Canada being closed, what do you attribute the mass of GA planes coming here this year?
You can do the broad characterization of just saying pent-up demand, but I think under that there's some of the details. There's an awful lot of people who finished building airplanes during the 2-year period that nothing was going on. There were a lot of people who got their planes back up and modernized and running again, so we see a lot of that took place, and that's reflected through the avionics manufacturers and system manufacturers who have sold a lot of equipment in 19 and 20. And then I think that there has yet, Sun and Fun was the great lead-in, which gave us hope and an indication that we could have a reasonable event. And I think when people saw that happen and go successfully as it did, they realized this is going to be the next. And between your event, John, and ours, there really hasn't been much of anything else. So this was it. If you're gonna pull the Band-Aid off, this is the one to do it.
Okay, Lydia back here.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the news that Bezos and Richard Branson went to space on commercial flights. Do you see EAA having a role in the future of commercial flights? And if so, how?
It's hard to look out that far as to when somebody can make a experimental home-built spacecraft. Is it in the realm of possibility? Who would have thought we would have got to where we were today after 53 years? When you go from, Paul's originally working on scratch-built kits to now where these highly well-engineered, scratch-built airplanes to where we are today with these highly engineered kits that you can build in half the time. So who knows where it's going to go. I think what will come out of that is similar to the NASA programs, is out of that will come a lot of technology. There will be a lot of things that will come out that we'll be able to apply to general aviation at various levels, that, whether it be envelope protection, whether it be control systems, whether it be propulsion, derivative propulsion, all of that comes out of these kinds of FAR-X projects, which is really good because those get really well funded and hopefully we'll be the beneficiaries of it.
We've got time for one more. We'll go with Murray right here.
Hi, Jack. We've talked in the past about the use of home-built aircraft to tow gliders non-commercially. Is that still going in a positive direction?
There's the work that's going on under what's called Mosaic, and that's another FAA acronym for a regulatory change that's going to redefine light sport and some of the amateur-built categories and make them a more performance-based standard. So it'll allow more capable and well-proven airplanes to be able to fly with sport pilot licenses and actually have some that you can actually have professionally built. I think on the commercial side of it, the FAA is so far not wanting to touch commercial operations in any way. And that's kind of the sticking point with the experimental aircraft also, is around the commercial operation. Our goal first, before we get to that, is to be able to get some of these proven airplanes to be used for just commercial flight training and be able to put them at an FBO and be able to rent them. Because there are already some fantastic planes that have been out there for a long time that we should be using to help bring the cost and price point of flight training down. The LSA has proven that can be done. But now how do you move it up to, an RV-8?
Okay, we've used up our half hour, and Jack, thank you very much for stopping by, and thank you everyone in the media for joining us for this one. Jack will be back at the end of the week to talk about even more, hopefully all good stuff here at AirVenture. All right, thank you everybody.
Thank you.